You're a guy, even as a little kid, you love comedy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the first comedy I was ever exposed to was Bill Cosby, and a friend of mine, Jeff Drew, who I grew up with, he had all of Cosby's records, and I think I was like in 2nd and 3rd grade, and we used to just sit and listen to Cosby just over and over again, just wearing out the vinyl.
He's so great that we've almost forgotten it, you know?
No, to me, the 3 titans, like, timeless, are Carlin and Cosby and Pryor. Those are the 3 guys that I learned about really quickly and loved, and to this day, they're exactly as funny.
And for some reason, though, with Cosby, people are like, well, he's so mainstream that somehow, like, maybe that's easier.
But as a stand-up, he was just incredibly good. Just really, really great. The timing.
And still is. I mean,
still is, yeah.
I saw him not too long ago on Letterman, and he came out and was just murdering. And he's, I guess, well into his 70s now.
Yeah, and I think people, I mean, I used to study him when I was a kid, and I still do. Like, every time I've done a special that was important to me, I go back and look at him because he had great technique and he was like a jazz musician, you know. Right. He's a guy, he would keep the microphone at his knee. Like a lot of us, like I came up with young 80s guys, and Kinnison was the big one when I started, so I'd eat the mic and scream into it, you know, and not let up. You know, and but he keeps the mic at his knee and talks at a normal voice, and then when he wants to, he does this. And he knows the power of the different ranges and stuff, so.
See, I would think that would be a little scary to look at other stand-ups before you did your special, because you don't want to pick up inflections or...
Well, I don't think it happens to me, because I'm looking at really the mechanics, like really the underlying, like how are you using silence, and some of it is just inspiration, you know.
I think Chris Rock is another person who believes in watching public speakers, and you do that as well. And people forget that it is public speaking. So as a young person, as a kid, you're listening to this stuff, you're kind of studying it, and you said to yourself, this is what I want to do, or was that too far off of it?
No, I didn't know you could. I didn't know you could be something like that, a comedian. I didn't know that there was a road to it, but I really did want to. I mean, when I was in 4th grade, and we had the Gong Show was big on television then, so we had a Gong Show, and I did stand up. I told jokes. I juggled 2 balls and an apple and ate the apple, and then told bad jokes. That was my first time performing.
Yeah, and how did it feel to you? Was it?
I loved it. I completely loved it. And so I thought, God, Carlin, those guys, they're just talking in great circles. I don't know if I could do that. But when I saw Steve Martin, I thought, I'm weird inside my head like he is.
Well, were you funny with your buddies? Did all your buddies act like you're hysterical?
Yeah, somewhat. I was kind of this little dumpy fat kid. And I wasn't succeeding in anything as a kid. I didn't see anything that I would be really good at. I guess I made people laugh when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I remember a huge laugh I got in, I think it was like 3rd grade or something, and the teacher was talking about the different parts of the skull. You know, the skull has like 2-3 bones in it. I don't remember what they are. And the teacher said, does anybody know the other one? And I said, the noggin. And they laughed a lot.
It's like the greatest thing to get those laughs in school, too, when you're not supposed to.
No, the first time I really killed, I was in 5th grade, and we did Free to Be You and Me, the hippie fucking liberal play.
Right.
And, which I didn't know at the time I was being used for hippie purposes, but we had a really mean teacher who was really tough, and I grew to like her, but she would like the instant the kids were leaving, she'd light a cigarette. Like, you always smelled cigarettes when you walked out of her room. She was so stressed out. So she made us do Free to Be You and Me, and she told me to do a poem called Don't Put Your Horse in a Nightgown. It's an absurd poem. And I had to stand in front of the curtain, like in vaudeville when somebody does a solo act, while they're setting something up, and do this poem. And I couldn't remember it. And every rehearsal, I'd start, don't put your, and she'd go, louder! And she'd scream at me and say, if you don't know this, you're going to look like an idiot, and you're going to ruin the play. And I was so scared, and I drilled it and tried to memorize it, and then I came out for the play, and I'm looking at everybody's parents and the whole school, and I took a breath to start talking, and I just started fucking laughing. And they laughed. And then I started laughing again. And I was up there for like 10 minutes just laughing. And the place was going nuts. It was like a huge, and I walked off, just huge applause. And I went backstage, and all the other kids were, you ruined the show. You ruined You're awful. You stink. And nobody would talk to me for about a week after that.
So, was it tough being up there? Where you're like, hey, I'm getting laughs through my own personality?
I was high off my head, and I loved it. I felt bad when the kids hated me for it.
Sure.
There was part of me inside going, fuck you, little faggots. Fucking, I just killed. What did you do?
Yeah.
Pretending to be a baby and know everybody was yawning, asshole.
You know, nobody wants to see the other performer kill. It's always rough, even at a young age.
Yeah, nobody wants to follow that. Exactly.
So in school, were you the class clown? Were you the wise ass?
Not really. I had ADD a lot, I think, or I don't know. I don't think it's that simple. But I was just, I was a bad student, and I fell asleep a lot. I had low energy. I was kind of fat, sugar, low energy. And I remember being depressed a lot. So I wasn't that funny to other kids, I don't think.
Really?
Yeah.
But in the back of your mind, you said, I want to do this. How did you get up on stage the first time?
I was in high school, and I was listening to the radio, to WBCN in Boston, and they used to have 5 o'clock funnies. And so they had a guy on named Chance Langton, who was a comedian in Boston, and just a local. I didn't know there was local comedy. I thought it was just those huge guys with albums. And all of a sudden I'm listening to this guy who's really funny. And then they came on and said, that's Chance Langton. You can see him this weekend at whatever, at the Comedy Connection. And by the way, if you go to Stitches and on Com Ave on Sunday nights, you can go on, anybody can go on. It was open mic night. Just show up and sign up. And so I started to try to think of 5 minutes. And I thought I had an hour of amazing material. Like, I literally thought, like, I've got so much shit, and I'm going to go up and blow them away, and I'm going to be a star tomorrow, like next week. Like, I'm making my plans. I don't have to do any homework. I mean, I'm going to be a huge star. Because I also pictured I'd be the only one, and I pictured all these like a guy with a cigar. Who's the new kid? You know? I'd be like, this is the kid, and all these grown-up comics would be like. But I get there's a line of really competent comedians who are just doing open mic night.
Right.
And there was a lot of competition. But I got on stage, and I did a minute and a half to total silence. Every single thing I did was a terrible idea. Just total. And also, I'm looking at a bunch of grown-ups drinking. These are like people in their 20s and 30s, like Boston fucking bar drunks. And I'm trying to make them laugh, and it was one of the worst things to date that's ever happened to me. Was the first time I ever went on stage, and I was so ashamed. And
do you remember any of the jokes or anything that you were doing?
Yeah, I can't. I remember all of it. I remember the whole set.
But it's kind of like I just asked you, hey, tell me about the time you were molested when you were
exactly. Oh, well, like you could just I was about 14 and my dad fucked me in the ass. I think it must have been fall because it was, the Red Sox won the playoffs, I remember, and I jizzed on my face. So
I think it's good to have some scars that don't heal.
Absolutely.
The pain is still there.
To me, that's what started a pattern of my whole life, which is survival of failure. Mm-hmm. And I think if you can go to places and fail and come out intact, you've got a huge wealth of information.
Sure.
Bombing is much more instructive than when you kill. You just go, all right, look at me.
Yeah.
You don't learn anything. You don't even remember why you killed.
Yeah.
You just go, oh, it was great, because I'm great. That's why.
Yeah.
But when you bomb, it's like a murder happened to you, and there you've got data, you got evidence. It's like forensics.
CSI now.
Yeah, you walk around poking things with a pencil and you go, well, if you hadn't said this after that, it wouldn't have gone so bad. And you learned you have a huge wealth of information.
Yeah, it is really funny at that stage where you go back and go, I came out with the wrong attitude immediately, and then you don't have the skills to pick it back up.
Exactly.
You know? And when the audience sees the lack of confidence.
Oh, they just pounce with hatred. They were so mean too, and it was just awful. I mean, just with silence. I felt they were mean with silence. They didn't do it. They didn't make a noise. Nobody heckled, but I hated them. I felt really hateful towards the audience, and I tried it one more time. And I wasn't going to do it, but Kevin Meaney, who was the comic in Boston at the time, I worked at a video store, and he used to come in and rent videos, and so I got to know him, and I told him that I had tried stand-up, and he said, oh, you got to come do my show. And he had a show called the Sweeney Meaney Show, which was the biggest show in Boston. He said, you got to come on my show. And I said, oh, I've only done it once and it was bad. Let me get good at it. And he goes, no, I want you now. Because it's comedy tragedy. I want to watch you bomb on my show. And I went and did his show, and it was packed, and people were so excited, and him and Sweeney did this We Are the World thing that it was just destroyed. And then they brought me on, and I worsely bombed. And I can't describe how horrible that felt. And I was 18, and I knew I wasn't going to go to college, and so I'm like, well, I can't be a comedian. That's not going to work.
Right.
It was really depressing.
It is.
I didn't do stand-up for almost a year after the second time.
But, I mean, now, looking back on it, you would expect it, because it's almost like you put on some shoulder pads and a helmet and walked out with the Patriots.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I think I can play this.
Yeah, I can do this. And
have you ever played? No, I watched a lot, though.
Yeah.
And I think I'm ready.
Exactly. And I was a kid. I was this, somehow I got skinny in those years of my life, so I was this weird skinny kid with a big head, looking nervous. I mean, the only thing worse than being me would have been watching me in the audience.
Yeah.
There's probably still people in those two audiences that, like, once in a while go, oh, God, that was that kid. That was awful. And they remember it as well as I do.
And then they'll see you on Letterman or something.
Yeah, they go,
now.
no, that's not the same guy.
That's
not the same guy.
That odd kid. But you came up with a good point. Like, any thinking person, any person that could learn would go, I can't do this. I won't go back.
Yeah.
What is it about you that said, I got to go back there?
I guess I looked back at the pain of it, and I thought, well, I did it. It hurt, but I survived it. Well, what really happened was like almost a year after the second time, I went to this place in Boston, and in Cambridge, really, this place in Central Square, you know, the Cambridge kind of Harvard weird hippie area. They had a place called the Off the Wall Cinema, which showed old movies and weird movies. And I used to go there. And they had comedy night every Saturday at midnight. So I went to that, and it was a totally different crop of comedians. They were just weird. It was hosted by a guy named Ron Lynch, who's just a really strange, esoteric comic. And they were really offbeat, like Steve Martin was. And I thought, oh, that I can do. So I begged him, I just went up to the host and said, please let me go on here. And he said, I only use, professionals. And I said, just please. I was, this kid just saying, I have to do this. And he said, you need to make a tape. I need to hear a tape. And I didn't want to go back to the stitches. So I got my friends to get in a room with me in a tape recorder. And they clink glasses together so it sounded like a nightclub. And actually, I was so afraid to do it that my friend he did music, so he had a 2-track recorder, so I was in the room alone telling the jokes, and then afterwards they recorded, and I didn't let them listen to the jokes. I listened to my part and went laugh here. And I actually thought that and I gave it to Ron, and he listened, and then the next week I came back and he said, well, if you invite those idiots on tape, just sit in the front row. But he put me on, and I started doing it, and I had a little success, little titters, little tiny laughs, and that was enough to me.
To keep feeding
trying
on that,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, because I liked it. To this day, I still go I'm not going to be good at that. Mm-hmm. Fuck it, let's try it.
You still, to this moment, like to stretch yourself. Because your career has taken you into some really strange places where I say most stand-ups wouldn't even think to make some of the moves that you've made as far as making films and, writing for shows and other people. You're doing a lot of stuff throughout, I guess in the early days that none of your peers were doing.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Because I also was interested in making movies.